Okay. Looks like I just had to restart my computer. I'm sorry about the delay, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Brian Hagan.
Wonderful, thank you. And does not appear that we have a quorum yet.
Hi, this is Robert. I apologize for some confusion. Trying to get a connection over here in the courthouse. We've got the admin conference room connected in, it appears. Can everybody see and hear me on this this connection?
Yep, I can see and hear you, Robert.
Okay, again, apologize for the delay here. We've got a few people over in the commission conference room. I'm going to have them transfer over here, and we'll be ready to go in just a moment.
Wonderful, thank you.
Pearl, it looks like he's hiding behind the couch. Oh, there we go. We got him moved. Chair.
Here we are.
Having fun yet?
Yes.
Yeah. On that north side pool dedication for Roger Dress. Half standing in that hot sun. In what? Oh, yeah. The top of the dial and everything or what? Oh. Okay.
We having the same problems here?
Nope, we can hear you and see at least portions of most of you. Great. Okay, I think is Commissioner Steen with you guys in the admin?
Commissioner Steen is traveling today. I know he was going to attempt to call in. I don't know if he wasn't sure what his connection was going to be at this particular time.
Okay.
So I
Great.
would go ahead without him.
Well, we do have a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started and make the best use of our time here. I would like to call this June 7th meeting of the Cass County Human Service Zone Board to order. Madam Secretary, could you please do a roll call for us?
Mr. Peterson,
I'm here.
Mr. Capitan,
Here.
Mr. Breitling,
Here.
Mr. Steen, Miss Sherling. Here. Mr. Hagan,
Here.
Miss Snell.
Present. And then again, joining us today is Cass County Administrator Robert Wilson. Also on the line is Linda Dorf with Family Services and Sydney Schock with Economic Assistance. Our next agenda item is the approval of the May minutes. Have any discussion regarding the May minutes? Yes, Mr. Wilson, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Just a question for you, Pearl, and the rest of the board. You know, you following a discussion at last month's board meeting, you followed up with an email, what I would characterize as clarifying some comments at last month's meeting. I just wondered if you wanted to make any of those clarifications or addendums part of the record from information that was provided. If you feel like that's entirely not needed, I would understand that, but I just wondered thought there was some significant information provided after the fact and wasn't sure if you'd considered that.
You know, I hadn't considered that. I didn't realize that that was an option, Mr. Wilson, but I think there are definitely some very small pieces of that could be placed in the minutes and that would be appropriate from a clarifying standpoint. So We can certainly do that and move forward with the approval of the May minutes at our meeting in July with those additions.
Yeah, I didn't have a particular process of how you would splice and dice that document into the meeting minutes, but it seemed like there were some very important clarifications that you provided after the fact that if the meeting comments were recorded, then your follow-up comments were needed as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. Again, I didn't realize that that was an option. And so I would be happy to do that. And it's just going to take us, I'll need to adjust those with the appropriate follow-up comments in them. And then I would like to send them out for review and approval at our next meeting. So, is there any other discussion regarding the May minutes? Knowing that I'm going to make adjustments. Okay. Marla and I will do that and get that on the agenda for July. The next item that is on our agenda is the proposed timeline for zone board member recruitment. And I did make adjustments to this timeline. This can also all be flexible and I can make edits to it. But trying to use kind of the same process of, when we would have our next meeting and then when the commission might meet again to do approvals and some time to get the work done in between is how I came up with this action plan. So we have later on our agenda today to review and finalize the list of community members with this board. So we'll go through that next. And then by June 18th, which would be next Friday, would be to send invitations to our community members for the informational meeting. And then I thought by July 15th, and I think July 15th is a Wednesday. It's a Thursday to do that community meeting. Didn't want to do it too close to the 4th of July, concerns about people being on vacations. So I guess I would say, is there a preferred day of the week? Again, I kind of picked a date that I thought was appropriate, several weeks out to allow people to put it on their calendar, but not too far out. So we would still have some interest. Shouldn't conflict with any of our board meetings or commission meetings.
So if I may,
Yes, please, Ms. Sherling.
who do you intend to have at this meeting? And I guess, what is the intention of the meeting? Are we interviewing people? Is it needed that this board be in attendance? And if that's the case, I would suggest you put out a doodle poll and try to figure out when people are available. I know personally I'm gone that week, but I can also say that I'm just on a bunch of other boards, and every single board I'm on is struggling right now to try to herd everyone into meetings just because there's so much going on in the summertime. It's just really, really tricky to try to get it coordinated. And I mean, I'm talking every single tiny meeting I'm going to get 3 people in a room these days is difficult. So I'm just wondering what the rationale is or what the goal is.
Yes. So first question, it would be an informational meeting for those community members that we identify, just talking about the purpose of the board, the fact that we are going to be recruiting people, and accepting applications for potential candidates for that board. So it's for the people we decide that we decide to invite based on this list. I would not think that the current board members need to be present, but you are certainly welcome to be present. I don't think that that's mandatory. My vision for this was that myself and Kristen Hasbargen from the Department of Human Services, who is the Director of Zone Operations, would kind of co-host a brief informational meeting that says, this is the purpose of our board. Here's what the statutes say our board does. We're recruiting. If you have any interest, here's how you would potentially submit an application, open it up for conversation, and keep it a very brief Q&A following up to that. So that's my vision for it. I don't know, Robert, I know you and I have talked about a few things offline regarding that, and I felt like that was kind of our shared vision, that we would provide information to people, but it wouldn't necessarily be lecture style, and let it be a little interactive as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, and I think you were nice enough to indulge me that your format and your information here sort of built off what I'd sort of brainstormed and we had talked about going into last meeting, and so the meeting coming up that you're describing potentially on the 15th would be the made up participants would really be those that are identified on the spreadsheet that I think I'm sharing right now. You and your staff have gone back and kind of refined a raw conversation from last week into more strategically representing groups that you think would be helpful to have board members on the zone board. You would make individual reach outs, presumably coming out of today's meeting to the folks and organizations that are on this spreadsheet. And the purpose of that meeting on the 15th of July would be to make sure all of those folks have a baseline understanding what the function of a human service zone board is under the purview of redesign. And then understanding that with that baseline understanding, you would have some reach outs come to you, Pearl, and then those interested parties that you've reviewed would ultimately come to be reviewed by the county commission, as you have laid out in the rest of your timeline here. That would be would all work towards new board members onto the zone board, with that understanding that eventually, when the legislation passed in this most recent session goes into effect, that we can have no more than 2 county commissioners on a single county zone board, and this would provide for a smooth transition.
Yeah. So I'll just follow up with you, Ms. Sherling. Does that answer your question about the intent of, and then who would need to be present?
Right, yeah, no, sounds great, thanks.
Great. Okay, Robert, while you're sharing, could you pull back up the proposed timeline again? Thank you. So then I also left a section just saying like the 12th through the 16th, after we send out invitations and someone says, like Ms. Sherling, hey, I have about 6 other meetings to attend this day and I can't come, but I'd like more information, then I can have set aside some time to do some one-on-one informational sessions and go through the same information with prospective individuals who just couldn't come to the community meeting. And so I could do that the week of July 12th through the 16th. Then at at the meeting, we would say, you know, we're accepting applications for potential board positions. And so we can use either Microsoft Forms or SurveyMonkey, both of which we have access to create a virtual link that can be sent to the participants, and they can complete that and essentially do a board member application. We would collect those until the end of July. Then, you know, then I can report out at the August board meeting, you know, how many potential applications we have. And then if we need to make any recruitment effort adjustments, you know, if we have too few, you know, we could look at some additional outreach at that point if everything goes well and we have an adequate number of applications. Then that week, the first week of August, the applications can be reviewed by the individuals that are going to review them and make recommendations. So myself and Commissioner Breitling, or how, you know, however we're going to structure that review committee. And then I can get them on the county commissioner agenda for August 16th. So you guys will have a chance to review those in advance and the recommendations and approve or deny any applicants. After that, during the last couple of weeks of August, I can follow up with potential new board members and schedule and provide a board member orientation. And I would also see if Kristen Hasbargen would join me in that process as well. And then September 7th could be the first zone board meeting with new members. And then during the months of October, November, and December, those who are current board members and commissioners that will be transitioning off can choose to attend those last quarter meetings and be present for those, or transition out at that time if they so desire. And we can do kind of a handing of the torch, and then we will be compliant by our January 1st, our first meeting that we have in January with the legislation. So that spreads the timeline out a little bit further, but I think that there's some additional legwork that's going to need to be done that will require a little extra time. I'm thinking specifically, you know, allowing for people to make application, time to review those, and have some meaningful discussion about the people who apply and how they might fit into our board. Also, I think we have some resources for a board member orientation, but those probably need to be more robust. There is an existing handbook that was created, I believe, by a previous employee of the county, but I'd like to make that, again, a more robust document so people feel prepared to participate in the board when they start. So I'm going to need some time to do those things as well. Is there any questions or comments regarding the schedule? Any adjustments that need to be made?
I have a question, Pearl.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Sherling.
I don't know how to raise my hand here.
I saw your hand, so
Okay.
Great.
Great. So Department of Human Services doesn't have a manual already done for you?
Not that I have seen. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, they have, you know, that they have, they came out and visited with us last fall, and there is a work group on that, but I haven't seen any materials be rolled out to any of the zones or discussed at any of our zone director meetings.
And I'm concerned that this, you know, number one, falls on your shoulders. I'm sure you have other things to be doing, or, you know, some staff shoulders. And then, you know, do we get it right? Because I still don't know. I've been sitting on this board now for a long, long time, and I still don't know what I'm expected to do here. So how do you know that you're going to get it right? You know, and then you've confused a brand new board.
Yeah. You know what, this will be a good opportunity for me to follow up with Kristen Hasbargen, because that is was supposed to be, excuse me, one of her new, when she took over Director of Zone Operations, to do that piece around zone board orientation and training. So I will follow up with her and see what progress they've made in their work group.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner Peterson, you have your virtual hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. Point of order, don't we have to do an approval of the meeting minutes, or are we going to delay that till the next meeting?
Oh, we are going to delay that until the next meeting. I'm going to make some adjustments. Is there any further discussion regarding the schedule of action steps? Oh, Mr. Wilson, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I would, Pearl, I was just gonna say, I think in some ways your discussion points, your topics that you share at that community stakeholder meeting can be very simple. And really you just bullet point off statute of the responsibilities of zone board members. I think you can mention that it's understood that at some point there might be more details fleshed out about that. But what we know in the here and now are the points that are listed in statute for the duties and responsibilities of zone board members.
Yeah, I think
And-
that's great.
And just stick with what you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And again, another reason, why I would like to ask Kristen Hasbargen to participate from that standpoint, because she's supposed to be the resident expert, as much as we can have a resident expert on that topic. So, thank you for that comment, and I will bear that in mind. Mr. Hagan, please.
Yeah, I guess just listening to everybody, for that meeting, I would have what Robert had talked about, is have, roles, responsibilities, duties, whatever you want to call it, have a bullet point summary and probably go through those with that group that's going to be in attendance. Otherwise, I think you're going to be explaining in the future, they have a different concept than what we do or you do or something like that. But I think it'd make your life a lot easier to try to have that laid out ahead of time. So just a FYI, because you have a lot of people coming and they're going to have different perspective on the roles. So just
Yeah.
a thought, but I would do that. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was actually thinking about, making a very brief PowerPoint presentation. And that's something I can certainly share with this group at our July meeting, since that will occur prior to the meeting. And then I would be willing to accept any feedback on the structure of that as well. So.
Good idea.
Great. Anything else? So I'm going to use this then as a roadmap. If there are any adjustments that need to be made, I will make revisions and keep the board updated around that, and just review this as needed if there are changes at our upcoming board meetings, just to keep everybody in the loop. The next document that we have is the community member list. And that's quite a long document, and I don't know that we need to go through it line by line. I don't think that we have enough time set aside today to do that. But essentially what this is a comprehensive list based on the two lists that were provided at the last board meeting. I then followed up with all Cass County staff via email and allowed people to make recommendations based on partners that we do work with in the community, and received some additional referrals there. And then I followed up at our last leadership team meeting with all the managers and supervisors. And we went through and continued to add either agencies or individuals to our list. And so using our previous documents and then through soliciting information and then through some additional just community research on my part, put together this list of individuals. And it has an agency. And then what I tried to do for the group as well is to provide like a connection to the community. So that might include the purpose of the organization, the agency's mission, vision, or values, or some other element that just gives a little insight into what that agency does and how they might relate to the work of human services and the work that we do. So that section that says community connection is, that's what the purpose of that is to just shed a little bit of light on that agency and their purpose and how they might link with us. Any agency that we have specific contacts at, perhaps we partner with them through an MOU, or we do business with them through redesign, or we just have a lot of contact through our operational processes. We try to identify someone that we could personally invite rather than sending just kind of a vague invitation to whom it may concern at the agency. So there are a few places that we didn't necessarily have a contact person, and so I'll do some research and we'll find the appropriate individual there. But essentially, what I came up with here is about 12 pages of agencies and/or individuals. I did ensure that your referral is on there, Mr. Hagan, that you had provided me. There are some things to consider. I didn't put, for instance, every school that's in the Fargo public school system. But there were a couple that we had connections with that I added. There are some individuals from the Department of Human Services that may or may not be a good fit for the board. I don't know if they'll be interested in potentially being a board member and if there's any conflict of interest with their department position and then being on a human service zone board. I also did include a couple of our local senators, but I know that we have a large number of districts that converge in Cass County. And so I really have, left Senator Hogan and,
Lee.
Yes, thank you very much. I could remember her first name, not her last. Senator Lee,
Judy.
as contacts on here. So I guess at this point, what I would entertain is if there is anybody who says, hey, you forgot this very important partner, I would be happy to make any additions to this list. Or if for some reason there's an agency on here that someone believes is totally inappropriate, then I would be welcome to that information as well. So.
Pearl, I think we have a hand up here in the room, Commissioner Brightling.
Thank you.
Is it possible for you to provide us with a complete list of everybody that you have MOUs with or do business with?
Yeah,
I'd appreciate a copy of that.
Sure.
I'd like to know. Thank you.
yes, you are welcome. So just a little bit more information about this list. I did try to find, someone who works with this primarily the senior population. Our VAPS department is not huge, but they do serve the whole of Region 5, which is Trail, Steele, Cass, Ransom, Sargent, and Richland counties, and do have a lot of interactions with older adults. So trying to keep a representative from that portion of our those clients in mind. We also do locally administered home and community-based services, which is a much smaller program than the state-run home and community-based services, but we serve older adults there as well. So trying to have a connection to some of the older adults in our community. I found there are several connections with our refugee populations, our Native American populations, our schools, try to connect or find information from low income or homeless individuals. There's individuals who work with public housing. So try to be really comprehensive and expansive in this list in touching all the areas that we work with. There's a referral for someone from Job Services, which is a great connection with our Economic Assistance Department. And obviously, our schools and other people that we do a lot of work with our youth and families. So I feel like this is a good comprehensive list, but again, would welcome any additions to it, and that doesn't have to be just in this moment, in this meeting. But if you take a peek at it and think I've missed someone, please let me know. Yes, Mr. Wilson.
It's actually, oh, sure, here. I'm wondering, have you attempted to categorize any of these so that we're not too lopsided in any one representation?
I didn't do that yet, Miss Sherling. I just put everybody in alphabetical order, essentially. But I certainly could do that. I didn't want to, at this point, limit the number of invitations we sent, because I'd hate to choose one agency that works with refugees and then have no one show up.
Right.
So, yeah.
I just wonder, once you get through all of the first go around, if it wouldn't be appropriate to have, figure out who you want represented.
Mhm.
And, remembering we have an ideal number of people that we want on this board. We don't, want 20, I don't think. But, if you've identified 8 different areas that you want represented, and then trying to attach that identification to these different groups so that there's some sort of balance. So it isn't all just children or just refugees or just government. I know I've gotten comments from the city of Fargo with concerns in the past and maybe a little confusion. I see you've got a couple of groups from the city of Fargo there. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and how I saw that kind of working out was after, inviting people, informing them, accepting applications, reviewing the applications we have, And then I think what you're talking about is going to come out in that application review and then referral to the commission portion, where we're going to say, right, we don't need 4 housing options on the board. We need 1, maybe what's the most comprehensive, what covers the most urban and rural areas in the county that, you know, could address not just Fargo and West Fargo needs, but then needs outside of there, or could be able to talk to us about issues that are happening in our rural communities. So I think that at least that's my intention, is to have some diversity. And I think at that point, depending on who applies and who doesn't, we could even potentially go back, you know, if say nobody from the refugee community submits an application, then perhaps we can go back to our personal contacts at those agencies and say, you know, we really feel like it's important to have someone that represents your community here, and encourage some application if we don't, and we can sort through the ones where we have duplicates and make a recommendation for who we think is the most appropriate. And I actually would support, from the review of applications for potential board members, that actually come from myself and the management team, who oversees, you know, much of the operations, because I think they'll be able to provide the best insight into who we're really connected with in the community and who we need to have present. And then obviously that will go up through the county commission for final review and approval from those groups. So that's my perspective on how I would hope that it rolls out. Yeah. So if there's any more discussion, or if anything comes up, please let me know about the timeline or the community member list. If there's nothing more at this moment, then we'll keep pressing through our agenda. I apologize that I didn't get the next topic on our agenda. It's about donated leave. Just as a reminder, the Human Service Zone has a Human Service HR policy manual. And as part of that, we can add addendums. And we talked about this quite a long time ago. So excuse me for repeating myself. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Those addendums, we can add our county specific policies. And there were some that I didn't think to add when I was building that back in November and December. So one of those is leave donation policy. And when it comes to leave donation, Human Services has to have a separate bucket of hours of donated leave from the county. And the department has made that clear for all Human Service zones, is that Human Service Zone employees can only use leave donated by Human Service Zone employees. And so we can't access the county's donated leave bucket, nor can the county access the Human Service Zone's donated leave bucket. So we've cleared all of that part up with payroll and with HR. But the last piece we needed was a policy to say, how are we going to collect this donated leave and how are we going to utilize it? And from my perspective, it makes sense to have the same policy that the county does. That's the policy that Human Service Zone staff are used to. It doesn't require us to recreate the wheel in terms of how individuals request or donate leave. It doesn't create any discrepancies between the county and how much leave is approved or available, or how it's used or how it's accessed. So the one element that I need when I add addendums is approval from the zone board regarding the adoption of the process. So with that, I would open the floor for any discussion on the process, any questions, and if there are none, I would entertain a motion.
I have
Oh,
I have a question, Brian.
yes.
Do we cap the amount of donated leave that any one person can make? Let's say they're a good friend to someone and it's, January, February, can they donate their entire year, or do you require that they keep a part of it? I'm just throwing it out there.
So the county's policy does not set like a minimum requirement,
Okay,
but the Department of Human Services does, and I was only made aware of that. I met with some fellow zone directors on Friday afternoon, and they had said they had made an addendum that said, like you need to keep 40 hours of your own annual leave and 40 hours of your own sick time. Like you can't just clear out your entire bank and then leave yourself with nothing and potentially put yourself in a position to then require donated leave because you were so generous that you gave all yours away. So I think that that would be a great addition. The Department of Human Services, when it comes to annual leave and sick leave, also does allow an employee to maintain 40 hours of annual leave and 40 hours of sick leave. Like when they're utilizing FMLA, so they are not, they haven't completely exhausted their resources. And Marla, that's correct, right? It's both annual leave and sick leave that they can maintain the 40 hours of.
It's a total of 40 hours of
Oh.
annual and or.
Thank you. I apologize. So the department has said you don't have to use all of your leave. You can maintain this cumulative 40, a combination of annual and sick leave. And so I think that that would be a good addition and something that I can write into the addendum when I submit it to the department for approval, and it would be in alignment with what the department does with like state staff as well. So it would be a consistent practice, at least from a human service zone side.
Pearl, this is Jim Capitan.
Yeah.
My question is, are you following state policy or is this county policy or something that you made up?
Yeah. Okay. So human service zone staff are classified employees and thus subject to all North Dakota Century Code and North Dakota Administrative Code related to classified employees. So we follow some Century Code and some admin code. And where there isn't Century Code or admin code that dictates a process, then we can utilize our county policy. So this is a great example that there is no admin code and there is no Century Code that says a classified employee under the merit system must utilize their donated leave like this. So we can come in and the document that you see before you is verbatim the Cass County government policy on leave donation. So something that's been crafted by human resources and approved for use in all other departments in the county. And so what I'm saying is I would just love to adopt this piece and utilize it as an addendum to the other policies that the human service zone staff have to follow.
Well,
Zach,
if the state has taken over the Human Services Department, which I think they have, right?
No,
No,
They haven't?
No.
These are county employees. It's a hybrid situation. It's the only way you can describe it.
Okay, I guess then I was misunderstanding, because I thought the state took over took it over, period. That's why I was wondering why we weren't following, why isn't the state being more progressive in getting you a human resources handbook and leave book and all that other stuff? Right,
We
so
do.
everybody's working off the same page rather than every zone doing their own.
no, we do have a unified policy manual that all zones use. There are just, they left some places where counties could have additions like this because there's no century code or admin code that governs it. So this allows us to have many of our policies be uniform from zone to zone to zone, but also to have a little flexibility to administer, certain benefits like this, like leave donation, in accordance with how like our whole county does it. So Commissioner Breitling is really right. It is in a sense a hybrid in that human service zone staff are all Cass County employees, but they are also classified employees under the merit system. And so the OMB and human resource management services oversees that, and thus we're all subject to those century code and admin code elements. So if there's an admin code or a century code that basically supersedes a county policy. So for instance, last month it was discussed about the annual leave variance, and we had talked, in earlier months when we had to adjust the annual leave schedule. And the reason why that needed to be adjusted is that there is a North Dakota administrative code that governs annual leave accrual rates for all classified employees. And so that's why those adjustments had to be made. It wasn't, you can do this if you want to. It was basically like you're a classified employee and this is the law and people are accruing at the wrong rate. And so that policy then overrides our county policy. But in this case, when there's no admin code and there's no century code, we can craft a policy that helps us administer benefits or provide, guidance in how we're going to do processes with our human resources.
Pearl, what you're really looking for is action by the board to authorize you to submit an addendum to the state policy so that we can adopt the leave policy that's in place for the county.
Exactly.
I'm going to make that a motion.
Do you have a second?
Restate your motion.
Peterson, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Point of order, are you sure that shouldn't be a roll call vote?
I certainly would be happy to do a roll call
Well,
vote.
I don't know, I'm just asking, I'm not an expert in Robert's rules, but that just,
Nor am I. So,
Well, if it has to do with any
if
kind
it's a
of
policy,
money,
it
Policy.
seems to me like it should be a
roll call.
roll call vote. But like I said, I don't know.
What was your
I
motion?
think
The motion is to
Commissioner
authorize
Peterson's hand
To
is up
submit
and
an addendum
I would
to
have a
the state
follow-up
policy of adopting our county policy for donated leave.
Oh,
Commissioner Peterson, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mel. Yeah, I feel stupid that you've been a roll call. Commissioner Sterling's right.
Okay,
When you make when it's financial or it's impactful regarding policy, you have to quantify which ways. Sorry.
okay, thank you for that. Okay, so let's let's try that again. We have a first from Commissioner Brightling and a second from Commissioner Peterson. So Madam Secretary, would you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Ms. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Capitan,
Yes,
and Mr. Steen is not currently in attendance. Ms. Mel?
Yes. Okay, motion carries.
I think you should show me as voting voting for it as well.
she didn't call full roll.
Mr. Couple.
And I'm not sure he called Peterson either.
Okay, Mr. Bright
Yes.
and Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
I think I might need a Robert's Rules tutorial.
You know, could I make a suggestion? The North Dakota Association of Counties does indeed have that. And yes, especially when you're chairing a committee, I think it's really important to indulge yourself and take that. And also, whoever's taking minutes should be a great reference for you for that kind of information. So I would suggest that,
You sit in DACO does that?
yes,
Okay.
you can do it online.
Thank you for that resource. I appreciate that because that is definitely an area that I do not feel confident in. So, and I like our meetings to be able to run smoothly. So, that's
Ms. Mel, if
yes.
I may, this is Chad. Good rule of thumb is if it's a big deal, then you do a roll call.
I like that. I like rules of thumb. Thank you. We are getting close to the end of our meeting, but we still have our operations narrative and operations statistics on the agenda. Is there, if everybody's had a chance to review, are there any questions? And if not, then there's just a couple of things that I would like to highlight.
Please do.
Great. This is in response to some of the conversation we had, I wasn't present, some of the conversation had at our last board meeting. And so at our last eligibility redesign meeting, and I do participate in those eligibility redesign meetings on a biweekly basis, the department is proposing to conduct what they call listening sessions. And those listening sessions, they haven't finalized exactly how they'll do those. I'm sorry, I am on, keep scrolling, the third paragraph under economic assistance, Mr. Wilson. So the department is proposing to do listening sessions, and at these listening sessions, individuals from the department, specifically those individuals working with redesign and with economic assistance, would come out and conduct in-person, on-site listening sessions, either for counties or for regions, kind of depending on where there are groups of people that can participate. They would also allow those to be virtual. And so they're essentially stakeholder meetings that allow the department to provide some information around the processes of redesign and allows them to also solicit information from individuals who are not just those who are participating in the redesign meetings, because certainly everybody can't participate in those meetings or they would be so expansive. So I just wanted to let you know that that is coming, and those would be things that should any of you want to participate and listen in on regarding eligibility redesign, you could do that. Second point is that the economic assistance supervisory team and Sydney and I will all be meeting with some of the redesign leaders from the department next Friday to talk about basically how redesign is going. And I have, at Sarah Stoltz's request, extended an invitation to Commissioner Peterson as well, based on the conversations that he was able to have with her after the last meeting. So we have some things on the agenda and hopefully can get some social services redesign around economic assistance sorted out. So I just wanted to bring that up and then open for any questions regarding that. I did review the minutes of the last meeting, or I did watch the last meeting, and so I know that that was a topic that garnered a lot of discussion. And so if there's anything that feels unanswered at that point, please let me know. Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, Pearl, this is Robert. I will be blunt and I will ask, do you feel like you have staff buy-in on the concept of redesign? And if you don't, are these listening sessions going to aid in that?
I don't believe that I don't believe everybody has bought in. So again, I participate in the redesign meetings, and we have a very active group of individuals with a lot of experience. And we have people who are coming to the table and supporting a hybrid method between case management and process management. And I think they're behind, the need that we can't do work exactly the same way that we're doing it. And then I think we have staff who vary on the ends of the spectrum that are open to things changing. But the ambiguity of exactly how it will change then is concerning to them, because I don't think that the department can answer everybody's questions about how things are going to change, which is why we're having redesign meetings in the first place. And we're hearing other states present their processes and how they've transitioned. And we're talking about call centers and specialized teams and what could be process managed and what could be case managed. And they're starting to pull the caseloads from zones and share them. And they're being very clear with zone directors who are seeking to fill eligibility positions that we need to internally, start supporting each other in this process of case leveling. There are zones who only do process management in the state, and some of them like it and some of them don't. And there are other zones who do case management and want to adjust, and some that don't want to adjust. Again, I think on the spectrum, I think the hardest part is that the department hasn't said this is the way it's going to be. And so they're still looking for answers, some hybrid. And what is that? Is that a 20/80 case management, process management? Is it a 50/50? And I think that ambiguity is concerning to people. It's concerning to me that we don't have all of those answers. But again, that's the purpose of redesign, is to investigate and solicit information and incorporate people who are doing the work to talk about whether specialty TANF unit is going to meet the needs of our clients across the state, or will it not? So that was rambly and I apologize. Mr. Wilson, you had your hand up and then I'll get to you, Mr. Hagan.
It's Shirley, but so are they aware of, yeah, I mean, I would assume that if staff has to have these listening sessions to get on board, do they have a plan to what they're going to do with their listening sessions and how they're going to respond? And I'm just looking at it from my own perspective as a board member. I mean, I've been sitting here for the last, couple of years or however long we've been working on it for much longer than that. I don't see a lot of progress in my understanding of my role. And this has been a recurring theme for a long time. Are they hearing that, and how are they responding to that? And I see that, the response is, well, we're only going to have 2 county commissioners on board. So maybe I won't even need to worry about my role anymore. But honestly, I sit on a lot of boards and I feel like I know what my role is, but not on this one. And, so if I'm feeling that way, I just have to wonder how staff is feeling and then how is it being addressed? I think just every topic you've covered in the last hour reflects that, just reflects that confusion, at least. And maybe the rest of the board is completely clear as a bell on what we're doing here, but I'm just speaking for myself.
Thank you. No, I think it's been a period of adjustment. I will just say I don't have any additional information about the listening sessions other than they want to conduct those during the summer, and that they want to be able to be in person with people and open those up to as many stakeholders as possible. So no additional information there. Mr. Hagan?
Just a question. I've been on this board a long time, and, we've been down this road so many times. We haven't been to this consolidated regional process, but, so let's just take Fort TANF example. So if you're going to take questions in, not everybody in the state's going to understand TANF because some of them probably don't use it a lot. But just say, okay, here's what TANF is. Here's the process today, incoming process or booking process or whatever, and have that as part of the discussion. But then, okay, an open dialogue as far as what are the things we're thinking that would make it more effective? What's some of the ideas to turn it or to deal with it or to make it better or whatever you want to say? Boy, you'd have to have someone taking notes. And so you constantly have a working document that here's where we're at today. Here's the process. Here's how we measure outcomes, which I don't know how we do that today. So you have all of those things lined up. And then as people start to ask questions or you start to go in a different direction, you could pull this document up and see what's been talked about. Otherwise, I think you get all of these meetings going. I think it would be extremely difficult to keep tabs on what are we doing today? What are we talking about? What are the top 4 items, 5 changes, 5 outcome, tracking systems or whatever. But I just think as we get into that process that, boy, you would have to really take notes compared to what you're doing today as you work through different solutions. So I'm just talking about that. So for example, in corporate world, we have a project management team, and that's what they do is they look at both sides, and they constantly are keeping track of where you're at currently and what are we doing to fix it. And then you have to monitor the outcomes so that if it doesn't work the way you say, you have to continue to tweak it and make it better. But there's a number of us have sat here a long time, whether it's computer design or re-engineering. We've been re-engineering that since '99. And I don't think it's any better. I'm just throwing it out. I would just recommend you really track this stuff as you go through it, because it's confusing to us that have sat here a long time. It just seems like we're turning a snowball into an avalanche here, and I'd be really careful with all the data. So just my thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you. We have exceeded our time. Is there anything else for the good of the meeting that we need to touch on today? Hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Peterson motion or second?
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.